All right, item 7B, presentation of an annual report by representatives of Cox Communications, a cable service provider with a non-exclusive franchise with the City of Broken Arrow, and regarding the services provided by Cox and operation of cable system. Roger.
Good evening, Mayor Wimpy, Councilors Gillespie, Parks, Ford, and Udy, Manager Spurgeon, City staff, Chief Berryhill, Chief Moore, and our fellow citizens here tonight. It is a privilege for Cox to have the honor to serve the citizens of Broken Arrow. I'm joined by my colleague Tiffany Bruton tonight, and we are here to deliver our annual report of, as the mayor said, a non-exclusive, meaning competition is welcome, and we always find that it helps us all getting up early in the morning. We know you have a very lengthy city council agenda tonight, so I am going to be relatively expeditious. This year's report is going to be slightly different because we have just all persevered through a very strange 14 months of history. The pandemic era out of which we are now emerging or beginning to emerge. And the implication for a company like Cox or any other provider of internet, video, and other services has been a very interesting time because never before has technology been quite so important. All of a sudden in March of last year, where somebody might have used their home services only for checking email or an occasional download of a Netflix streaming production, like I bet a lot of these people down here might have done, all of a sudden there might have been one or two adults who were conducting their job out of their home, along with 2 or 3 or 4 or more kids, one of whom might have been studying all online, or all of these were studying online, and the others of whom might have been gaming and downloading movies and doing other things via email. So never before has connectivity been so important. We found that out, and we were very glad that Cox had made significant investments in our infrastructure in Broken Arrow, because what it allowed us to do is it allowed us to enjoy some unprecedented demand for our services. Now, those didn't come without challenges, and you'll hear a little bit more about that tonight. Do I have the clicker here? And there we go. Just to remind everybody, we're in 4 different businesses. We're obviously in the internet business, we're in the video business or television business, which is actually what the franchise governs, is the video side of things. We're in the home security business and the business security business, and then finally we're in the telephone business as one of your largest providers of telephony in this great city. And I put in yellow there that we do not take one Broken Arrow customer for granted. Every single customer is important to us, and I say this because with a great big company that's striving to serve hundreds of thousands of customers across the country, we try to make sure that to achieve our goal of not taking one customer for granted. Now, in the community, real quickly, and I usually spend more time on this, but you all are aware of this thanks to the leadership of our Director of Public Affairs, Tiffany Bruton, who is a huge Broken Arrow fan, as most of you know. Cox is very fond and strives to be a leading citizen, corporate citizen in Broken Arrow, with the various things we have done with Broken Arrow Charities, with Broken Arrow Schools, and the investment in future leaders of this community. In fact, 6 of our own current employees are graduates of Leadership Broken Arrow, as well as being active in the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce. I always like to stress every year before I get into some more meat and potatoes how proud we are to be the leading broadcaster of Broken Arrow Tiger football. Believe it or not, on Cox Channel 3 on Friday nights in the fall, little dinky Cox Channel 3, especially when Broken Arrow plays, and one other school that starts with a J, when those 2 schools play, Cox Channel is usually the #1 or #2 highest rated channel of any on the dial, including ESPN and ABC and CBS. So it is absolutely amazing, and it's a privilege for us to get to broadcast Broken Arrow High School football. And this year, Tiffany worked with the folks at Challenger Sports Complex, and we're a proud new sponsor of that great facility, which is another thing that has enhanced the quality of life here. Getting into some specifics, we have, over the last 10 years, invested $16 billion nationally. And you say, Roger, this is a talk about the city of Broken Arrow, not nationally. But it's important to everybody in this room because everybody in this room interacts over the internet with people nationally and internationally. The fact that you can press send on an email and in a matter of nanoseconds, that email arrive on the other side of the world doesn't happen by accident. We were building the internet infrastructure for the future. We just didn't realize until the pandemic how important that long-term investment was going to be until this past year. Speaking of the pandemic, we did a variety of things that were taken advantage of in a very positive way in Broken Arrow. When the pandemic started, we knew that internet was going to be more important than ever before, and as the result of that, we promoted our Cox Connect to Compete, which for income-eligible families with a student at home provided internet for $9.95 a month. There's a few of us who would like to get it for $9.95 a month, but not everybody can, but those who needed internet could, and we were very proud to be the leading provider of that great product. Also, the very last dot, and we don't have time to go over all of this, I do want to point out because just 1 week ago, it was announced that with a grant from the federal government, Cox is participating in the emergency broadband benefit that will provide a $75 subsidy to a very broad swath of our community here, that being anyone who is at 135% or below of the poverty rate, anyone who is eligible for free or reduced lunch, lives in government housing, or a variety of other eligibility requirements. And Tulsa metro area is a little bit different from the rest of the country. The rest of the country is getting $50 per month in that subsidy program. And we just happen, as you all are aware, to be designated now as tribal land. And for that reason, we are all, whether you are of Native American descent or not, we are all who are income eligible for that $75 reimbursement, and we have seen unprecedented demand the last 7 days in that regard, both for existing and new customers. I want to talk a little more about, again, different from most years, the pandemic challenges. I mentioned earlier that all of a sudden, with the internet being of critical importance, we were seeing internet volumes and traffic starting mid-March of last year like we had never seen before. And for the most part, with a few small exceptions, the network handled it very, very well. That nanosecond it takes to send an email was occurring fine. There were a couple of neighborhoods in Broken Arrow, particularly those that were new or filled with families, that we found the traffic to be very significant. And for those, we have made a significant investment of infrastructure. In the month of May alone, we are pursuing 14 what we call node splits, where we are essentially doubling the pipeline to be able to accommodate all of the traffic in and out in that regard. As a matter of fact, with Councilor Udy and others of you who brought to our attention some concerns on social media, some of which were accurate and a great many candidly were not, we were able to address a number of the issues. Unfortunately, while a lot of people think if they articulate a service issue on social media, which we do not monitor and we cannot violate privacy laws with our customer, we really need our customers to call us if they have an issue. And I'm very pleased to report that over the last couple of months, we have had out of this very sizable community and tens of thousands of residential and business customers, at least as of Friday night, the average trouble call, whether it was our cause or not, was 7 in the entire city. So if there are issues, we want to know about them. And as I said on the second slide, we do not want one customer who is having challenges. Now, I won't cover all of this, but there are a number of misperceptions promulgated on social media, and the young people in this audience will be interested in this because a lot of us do a speed test online. More people than ever before in Broken Arrow are buying Cox Gigablast for their work, and with Gigablast you expect to get a gig speed, and a lot of people would take their phone out and they would get a speed of 150, and they'd say, Roger, that's 1/10, 1/15 of what we're supposed to be getting. What they didn't know is that device in particular has a constricting factor that they can never, no matter what internet speed is coming in, get that. The gig speed we guarantee is into your back door. And now you see the solution of some of the social media challenges we all encounter. I would also say that, that some people have asked, gosh, what about prices? And while our internet fees this year, we, for the most part, and a couple of cents up or down here and there, TV expenses did go up, but they went up because the prices that programmers charge us have gone up. So to get ESPN, ABC, CBS, and all of the other channels, they all charge us a fee. Those fees are going up, and we have, of course, no choice but to pass those along to a portion. Now, because of that, a lot of people, more than ever before, are going to streaming services. And with our primary business being the internet, we know you have to have that either way. And so we're really focusing our growth efforts on the internet, although there are certain people like me and at least one counselor I know who likes that remote and be able to signal through all of the channels and watch local news without having to unplug an input and put another one in. And for that reason, we are continuing to strive to deliver our video services with the various highest value. I wanted to briefly address causes of outages. I mentioned Friday night at 5 p.m. we had a grand total of 7 trouble calls, all of which were addressed in 36 hours. But what were the causes of those? And we've done a lot of research following meetings with some of you who had raised questions about this. Causes have included, the primary causes have included things like gophers, moles, lightning, ungrounded appliances that are in your home or a neighbor's home, and construction crews nicking lines, and we even yesterday had a truck hit a utility pole. Now, none of those things we caused, but what we strive and commit to pledge to all of you and to our fellow citizens is that we will endeavor to fix those things, whether they were caused by us or not. And I put other list of interesting things that caused those outages, including one on there called Wi-Fi squatters. Not that anyone in this audience has ever done that, but if you had a friend and you got their Wi-Fi password, some have been known to ride along and stream movies, taking up a lot of bandwidth, and then somebody wonders why their speed is impaired. Now, while we didn't cause these things, we take responsibility for educating our customers, and if we have one failure over the past year, it is making sure that we do a better job in customer education. And to that end, and partially as the result of a meeting last October with some of you on this council, we have enhanced Cox.com to have tips and tricks for enhancing your connectivity. Things like moving your router from the corner of the basement and wondering why the bedroom upstairs in the far corner where your office desk is not getting good connectivity. And with this customer education, we have seen a dramatic improvement in understanding of the things that could be done. And you see on this one, no, don't place it in the corner of the basement. Ideally, place your router in the middle of the house where it is most optimal. Now, I could go on for hours and hours, but I know you have hours and hours of agenda items, and I would welcome the opportunity, along with Tiffany Bruton, to answer any questions or any issues that you might have.
I think it's important to note. I was part of a group that brought some concerns, citizen concerns, to your attention, and I would give, I believe you, when you bring problems, when problems are had, but you also give credit where credit's due. And one of the things I'd be glad to tell anyone listening is that you and your colleagues at Cox were quick to start looking into the issue, and were quick to try to address the issues and educate me as to what they could be, some of the things you addressed here. So I'm grateful that you, from my perspective, took concerns that were being brought to me by citizens, and I'm sure many on this council heard some of the same ones. You took those concerns seriously and quickly addressed them. So, you know, I think that should be pointed out here that from my perspective, you are, your company is a good corporate citizen because of its willingness to hear from me as a conduit for many of my fellow citizens who reach out to me. So I want to point that out. I think it's important that those who hear what you're presenting understand that this comes not just an annual report, which you do every year gratefully, but this comes from this council and members of this council expressing concerns and you addressing them. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Councilor, for those remarks. And one thing I'd love to reinforce is so many people who express a service issue on social media, and again, that's something that you're very familiar with, I know, assume that we know there's a problem. We really need our customers to call Cox. And I know that was a problem in one case in particular in the middle of the Oklahoma City ice storm, as an example, because they had hundreds of thousands of people without our call centers were admittedly backed up, because the same ones that serve Oklahoma City serve Broken Arrow. And so we did have some longer than usual delays because of that and some other natural disasters. But we have actually, as a result of hearing those types of things, have actually hired more people at our call centers to make sure that we're staffed up for things like that, so we can find out when there are issues.
You know, I'd like to echo also that I was sitting in that meeting, but we did lose our internet a couple of weeks ago. And I thought, well, I just sat in that meeting, and here I've lost it. I didn't know exactly why. People online were really good working with my wife. I didn't have the patience to sit down and work on the computer, but they did, and they came out, had a service guy came out. His name was Matthew Guernsey on Sunday afternoon, and he stayed 2 hours. And every problem that we had was ours. A lot of the stuff was outdated. We lived in the house for 35 years. The wires that we were using were outdated, and he did not leave until everything was working perfect. And we did have internet in all of our rooms that we had lost it. So I salute you for that, but you got great service people that come out, and this was a Sunday afternoon. So
We'll pass
it was a
that
good
along
job.
to him, and we
Okay.
appreciate that. Any other questions?
No other questions. I'm just glad you reiterated to give you guys a call, because like you said, they'll post on Facebook and assume that you guys will see that. And we do pass that along, and Tiffany's been amazing whenever I send her a Facebook message regarding those things, and you guys take care of them quickly, but people need to actually call Cox.
We always joke, we can't fix what we don't know about,
That's
and we're
right.
subject to privacy regulations with our customers, so we can't even interact in that regard on social media. So thank you for mentioning that, whatever your provider is. And I speak on behalf of our competitors in that regard, too.
Yeah,
Well-
same with the phone and the PSO. Just kidding.
Well, and that's one of the things is I'm not a fan of social media, so I try to avoid it. But what I have observed is where I was getting my feedback was from emails where people reaching out directly to me. And at least if they'll do that, I can forward that along to you. Putting it on Facebook and hoping that someone stumbles across it because they have mutual friends that are friends is to me a huge risk you're taking. And so please, if you don't know how to reach Cox, reach us. We will make sure it gets to them, but don't just put it out in the ether and hope someone sees it,
And what happened in our neighborhood is, most of us have an HOA page. And so, we have this habit, so we have what we do is we get on there, is your internet working? And then a lot of people, they'll say, whenever we were having issues, no, I called. And so then people don't call because somebody else said they called, and they're like, well, we called, so they know about it. But then when you call, they say, well, only one person called. Well, it's because they saw that, and so then it got to where we were like, okay, everyone call. And so then it was like all of us were calling. But I will say that every time that we've called in, y'all have been Johnny on the spot. You've taken care of it. I've upgraded some things in my home. And I pretty much keep things upgraded, but I always like the new stuff, so that's good. But something that I'm wondering about is like Johnny mentioned, needing to replace some of the things within his home. Is there kind of a timeline of if you have wiring that was done before this date, you might want to upgrade?
Older homes are a challenge, and like the human body, it's different in every single one. There are homes that we have with 70-year-old wiring, and things generally work okay. There's others. The bigger thing is the router, the piece of equipment that broadcasts the Wi-Fi signal. Don't want to be quoted as this a cut and dry kind of thing, but generally if your router's over 5 years old, it pays to get a new one. Just the chance for viruses and outdated technology and security walls and things like that, 5 years on a router is probably the most important thing people can do. Now, if you have a large number of squirrels in the yard or in your attic, probably the wiring should be inspected. Unfortunately, that is not something that Cox typically provides, but rather electricians and other audiovisual people.
Okay.
I would close just by saying, too, one thing that I failed to articulate earlier, and that is, you know those signs that say, call before you dig? This time of year, there's a lot of planting going on, and a lot of neighbors thinking, I can just plant that holly bush that was killed in the deep freeze we had in February. Please, 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 Okie 811, because that right now is among the leading causes of issues. So if you'll call before you dig, and again, thanks for the opportunity. More importantly, thanks for the good communication. Usually when there's issues, it's because of a lack of communication, and we felt Broken Arrow among the many communities we have the privilege to serve in Oklahoma. And let me remark, this is the only community that actually has written into the franchise agreement that we make a live annual report and answer questions, and that just shows with the city of Broken Arrow how it's different from other communities where it's a little more of a distant relationship. So we appreciate the opportunity. Do not hesitate to call Tiffany, me, or any of our other 500 colleagues, and we will strive to deliver what we think is the most competitive and highest value product, and if it's not, we want to know about it, because competition is what's keeping us, getting us all up early in the morning. And I said one other thing to all these great young people, the future of this community. I will say, hopefully you will get your own internet soon, because Cox's latest innovation through panoramic Wi-Fi allows your parents to singly turn off your devices after a certain hour at night if you're a Cox customer. So with that having been said, usually the younger people don't like that feature, but proud that at least the parents who are paying the bill like that feature. It's a privilege and honor to address you. Thanks so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.